If she doesn't make it, the apartment is already in my name. If she doesn't make it, the apartment is already in my name. Everything will be over soon. The silence arrived at the worst possible moment. That was how Nurse Valentina Suarez would remember it years later. Not the monitors. Not the voices. Not the chaos in the hallway. The silence. That particular silence that only happens when people stop pretending. Room 11 at Villanueva Central Hospital had been noisy for hours. Dr. Camila Ferreira had been on her feet for 19 straight hours. At 34 years old, she was a specialist in high-risk deliveries, a woman who had stood at the edge of life and death so many times that fear no longer distracted her. She never panicked. She never improvised. She stayed, worked, and watched with the cold patience of someone who knew exactly what she was seeing. The patient's name was Sofía Medina. 27 years old. 39 weeks pregnant. She had been admitted just after midnight with a placental abruption that progressed faster than anyone expected. By 2 a.m., her blood pressure was dropping in the slow, steady way that told doctors the body had already started making decisions before they had. At 3:45 a.m., the room carried that specific energy of people working at the very limits of their abilities. At 3:47 a.m. Sofia's heart stopped. Cardiac arrest, Dr. Ferreira announced. Chest compressions began immediately. The emergency team arrived within seconds. Outside room 11, 3 people waited in the hallway. They had been there since shortly after 1 a.m., long enough for the night shift nurses to start paying attention. Not because they were loud. Because of the way they waited. Like people expecting something they had already decided would happen. The man was Rodrigo Medina, 31 years old. Broad shoulders. Sharp jawline. The kind of man who entered rooms expecting them to reorganize around him. His phone rarely left his hand. He had kissed Sofia's forehead while she was still conscious, squeezed her hand once, then stepped into the hallway and spent the next several hours making calls. Standing beside him was a woman wearing a burgundy blouse. Her name was Daniela. She had been introduced to hospital staff as Rodrigo's cousin visiting from Monterrey. A detail Valentina noted because cousins usually didn't receive the kind of touch Daniela received when Rodrigo thought nobody was looking. On Rodrigo's other side stood his mother. Graciela Medina. Mid-60s. Cashmere jacket. Gold earrings. The bearing of a woman who had never heard the word no, and had built her entire personality around that fact. When Sofia had been admitted, Graciela looked annoyed rather than concerned. Dr. Ferreira noticed. She never forgot it. At 3:52 a.m., Dr. Ferreira stepped out into the hallway. Her face carried the practiced neutrality doctors spend years learning. The expression that holds everything together until words arrive. Rodrigo looked up immediately. "How is she?" Dr. Ferreira took a breath. "We lost her heartbeat at 3:47. We're working to bring her back. The situation is critical." Something crossed Rodrigo's face. Valentina would think about it for weeks. It wasn't grief. It was something wearing grief's clothes. Something calculating. Daniela placed a hand on his arm. Graciela asked only one question. "And the baby?" "We're doing everything possible for both of them." Then Dr. Ferreira returned to room 11. At 4:01 a.m., Valentina overheard something she was never supposed to hear. The hallway had fallen quiet. Rodrigo's voice was low. Not low enough. "If she doesn't make it," he said, "the apartment reverts to joint ownership. I had the paperwork redone in October." Graciela's response was quieter. Valentina only caught the last 3 words. It was time. Daniela said nothing. She adjusted her purse strap and stared at room 11 with what Valentina would later describe as impatience. Valentina set down her pen. Looked at the door. Thought about Dr. Ferreira on the other side, fighting for a woman whose husband was discussing property transfers while she lay dying. Then she picked up the pen again. And watched. At 4:23 a.m., the monitor inside room 11 stopped showing a flat line. It wasn't dramatic. It rarely is. A flicker. A beat. Then another. A rhythm finding itself the way a person finds balance after falling. Unsteady. Then stronger. Then real. Dr. Ferreira stared at the monitor. Then at Sofía. 27 years old. Dark hair spread across the pillow. Oxygen mask in place. Fragile vital signs. Alive. The screen updated again. Dr. Ferreira studied it for nearly 30 seconds. Then she called for Valentina. Valentina looked at the screen. Then at the doctor. Then back again. "Does the family know?" she asked. "No," Dr. Ferreira replied. "Not yet." The way she said, "not yet," carried a weight neither woman discussed. At 4:31 a.m., she returned to the hallway. Rodrigo stood immediately. "She's alive," Dr. Ferreira said. 2 seconds of silence followed. 2 seconds during which 3 faces transformed from what they truly were into what they wanted others to see. "Thank God," Rodrigo said. The right words. The right tone. The right expression. 1 second too late. "When can we see her?" Graciela asked. "She's unconscious and must remain that way for now. The situation is still very delicate." Dr. Ferreira paused. "There's something else we need to discuss." She gestured toward the consultation room at the end of the corridor. The small room with the round table. The tissue box. The blank walls. The room where life-changing news was delivered sitting down. Valentina didn't follow them. She wasn't invited. But the consultation room had a window facing the hallway. And her nursing station sat directly across from it. She couldn't hear the conversation. But she could see their faces. She watched Rodrigo receive the information. She watched Daniela grip her purse tighter. She watched Graciela's hand rise to the gold necklace around her throat. Whatever Dr. Ferreira was telling them, it wasn't what they expected. What Dr. Ferreira told them was this. Sofía Medina had not been carrying one baby. She had been carrying 2. Twins. The second twin had been smaller and positioned behind the first throughout the pregnancy. Early ultrasounds had shown her only as a shadow. Dr. Ferreira had monitored both babies carefully since week 21. During the emergency cesarean section performed while Sofía was being resuscitated, both girls had been delivered safely. Twin A. Stable. 1.7 kilograms. Neonatal intensive care. Assisted breathing. Twin B. Stable. 1.85 kilograms. Breathing independently. Expected to survive. Their mother was expected to survive too. Dr. Ferreira delivered the information calmly. Then she watched. Rodrigo's face did something strange. Not relief. Not gratitude. It looked more like a man realizing there were additional pieces on a chessboard he thought he had already mastered. Graciela became very still. Daniela looked at Rodrigo. Rodrigo did not look at Daniela. The silence stretched. Eventually Dr. Ferreira said. "I want to be absolutely clear. Your wife is alive. Your daughters are alive. All 3 of them will need significant care over the coming weeks." She deliberately emphasized the words. Your wife. Your daughters. Your family. I will need your full support. Rodrigo left the consultation room first. Phone already in his hand. Graciela followed, touching her necklace again as though confirming it remained there. Daniela emerged last. None of them spoke. Then Rodrigo turned and walked toward the elevator. Not toward room 11. Toward the elevator. Valentina watched him leave. Then she returned to room 11. She stood in the doorway and looked at the woman in the hospital bed. The steady heartbeat on the monitor. 2 empty bassinets waiting by the window. And she thought about how sometimes things settle, not cleanly, not without damage, but into something that still holds together. Sofía regained full consciousness 41 hours later. At first she knew nothing. Not that she had been unconscious for nearly 2 days. Not that her heart had stopped. Not that 2 tiny girls were fighting their way toward strength 2 floors above her. What she did know was that Dr. Ferreira was sitting beside her bed. Not standing. Sitting. Later, Sofía would say that was the moment she knew everything would be okay before a single word had been spoken. Doctors who sit down are not delivering disasters. They are staying. There are some things I need to tell you, Dr. Ferreira said. I'm going to tell you everything, and I'll stay while I do. And she did. The twins' names came later. Sofía wanted to see them first. The neonatal team arranged it. A wheelchair. Extra care. More kindness than protocol required. Because Valentina had quietly made certain requests on Sofia's behalf. The first time Sofía held both babies beneath the soft lights of the NICU, she remained silent for a long time. 1 daughter in each arm. Tiny. Red-faced. Stubbornly alive. They were both there the whole time, she finally whispered. The whole time, Dr. Ferreira confirmed. Sofía stared at them. Nobody knew. I knew, said Dr. Ferreira softly. I'd been following both of them since week 21. After a long silence, Sofía asked. What happened with Rodrigo? She asked it the way people ask questions when they already know half the answer. Dr. Ferreira was careful. Honest. She told Sofía what she needed to know. In the order she could bear to hear it. Sofía listened quietly. Then she looked at her daughters. She thought about 3 people waiting in a hallway. And 1 doctor who chose to sit down. I want to speak to a lawyer, she said. Before I speak to my husband. Can I help arrange that? Dr. Ferreira asked immediately. Without hesitation. The lawyer arrived on day 4. Rodrigo arrived on day 5. He brought expensive flowers from a real florist. Wrapped in brown craft paper. Beautiful flowers. He stood in the doorway looking at Sofía. Looking at the 2 bassinets beside the window. Then he said her name with the careful tone of a man performing a scene he had rehearsed. Sit down, Sofía said. She told him what she knew. She told him what she had already begun. Her voice remained calm. Steady. The voice of a woman who had died and returned and no longer feared the things she once feared. Rodrigo spoke. Some of it was apology. Some of it was explanation. Sofía allowed him to finish before reminding him she had never asked for explanations. 2 hours later he left. The flowers stayed behind. Sofía moved them to the windowsill. Then she looked at her daughters. She had already chosen their names. Alma. And Luna. Named after their grandmothers. Names that felt right for girls who arrived against every prediction. Alma slept peacefully. Luna remained awake, studying the sunlight with the focused seriousness of someone newly arrived in the world and already taking inventory. It's okay, Sofía whispered to her. We have time. Dar. Ferreira visited room 11 every day during Sofía's 12-day stay. Sometimes only briefly. Checking a chart. Asking about the night. standing quietly by the window. One afternoon, with the twins asleep and sunlight filling the room, she sat beside Sofía again. Just as she had on the first day. Sofía looked at her. "You stayed." "Yes." "You already knew about them." "I knew some things," Dr. Ferreira replied. "Not everything." Sofía was quiet. Then she said, "But you sat down when you told me." "Yes." Sofía looked toward Alma and Luna sleeping beneath the soft afternoon light. "Thank you," she said. "For staying. For sitting down. For everything." Dr. Ferreira nodded. She looked at the twins. Small. Determined. Miraculously here. Sleeping with the absolute peace of those who have no idea what came before them. "They're going to do something important someday," she said. "I know," Sofía answered quietly. "I think they already have. Some rooms fall silent at exactly the wrong moment. But the monitors keep beating. And the people who stay are the only people who ever truly mattered. And sometimes the thing everyone in the hallway was certain was the end. Turns out to be the most complicated. Most stubborn. Most alive beginning of all. The bassinets were never empty. They never really were.